And we are live. Welcome to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. Happy Sunday, everyone. Thank you for coming back to join us for another broadcast. And as you can see today, I am not sitting here alone like I usually am. Fantastic. I am surrounded by my sister queens, and I am not going to waste any time with any long preamble today because, boy, do we have a lot to talk about. So, all I'm going to say is welcome to the queens and to the kings who are watching us and listening live. Some are watching us on Facebook, some are watching us on YouTube, some are watching us on Twitter. And believe it or not, some are actually trying to get into the broadcast studio to watch us here too. Don't come into the studio. The studio is only for the guests. When you come in here, I'm going to kick you out. And when I kick you out, what I want you to do is go to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter and watch us there. Okay. And I am now going to turn the microphone over to my beautiful sister queen so they can introduce themselves one by one. I am going to ask Jamila to go first, and then Marcella, and then we're going to bring in Octavia last because she's our guest of honor today.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
All
indeed.
right, take it away.
Well, thank you so much for that mention, Therese, and good afternoon to my queens as well. And may I also mention that we are Scorpio queens. There are 4 Scorpios on this panel.
Yes.
What is that really saying? We may have to dig a little bit deeper into that. Octavia, when is your birthday?
The 24th of October.
There you go. There you go. I'm November 9th. Bella, birthday?
Stella is still in
October 29th.
shock.
There you go.
And I am October
I bet you didn't know
26th.
that.
Ooh.
So all the Scorpios out there, big
Yes.
hail of queens. We're not neglecting anybody. We're just saying. We're just announcing that
It's something about our empathetic nature. But anyway, introduction, ma'am. That's where we are.
I am Jamila Kerwan. I'm media relations specialist. And I know the last time we did part 1, Therese labeled us as experts. There is one disclaimer here. We are experts, but by experience.
That's right.
Therese is the only expert on this panel. She is a trained psychologist, but we all know that experience is the greatest teacher. And this subject matter that we have started the topic, the discussion on, is going to go far and wide. And we welcome Octavia today, knowing that she has documented and immortalized her story. And we intend to have a wonderful discussion this afternoon. So, Therese, take it away. Who else do you want? Next.
I think you should just do everybody's introductions. I mean,
All right. So, Stella Bella, all the way in the ATL. Go on with your bad self.
Okay, I'm Marcella Andre, and like Jamila, I also am not a specialist or an expert. I am not a therapist. I am not a trained physician, none of those things. But I am a person who has also learned by experience. And not only that, since experience, I have also done a lot of study. So it's been over 10 years that I have been reading and learning about the traits, the signs, all of these things. And it's not about simply learning them so you can constantly talk about the narcissist in your life, but it's learning so that you can protect yourself. And I think it's really important that people understand that we are having these conversations because so many people really don't know and recognize the signs. So thank you, Therese, for having me. We're happy. We can't believe we actually made it to part 2. My goodness. And also congratulations to Octavia on having the courage to write that book and for putting it out there. Congratulations. We're so happy to be here with you today.
And thank you so much. And I must say that I'm honored to be on a panel with you beautiful queens. So thanks for having me. My name is Octavia Nicholas. I am the author of Surviving a Narcissist. I am an esthetician by profession, and I'm really happy to be here today to share. And the disclaimer goes for me as well. I am not trained. We have only one professional here today, but we can all speak by experience, and that's what I'm here to do.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, ladies. Let me give a thank you in advance before this program gets off to the gallop that is about to get off to. I want to say thank you in advance for your time, for your energies, for your beautiful energies that you are going to be pouring into the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform here today, and into all of the kings and queens that are going to be listening and watching us. Yeah, I am seeing someone else logging into the studio. Colette, I'm going to ask you to follow us, listen, watch, either on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Go to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform, and you will be able to watch and interact with us live there. Okay. All right. So let's jump right into it. As the ladies have said, I am a counseling psychologist, and so I know they're going to try. They're going to try their best to keep me on the hot seat here today, but I'm not going to let it happen. Do you know why I am not going to let it happen? I am about to throw in a shameless plug for this. Boom. See that? This is a whole book that OCTAVIA wrote. So she's the one who's going to be on the hot seat today.
I was just about to say, because we did yeoman service the last time. So
OCTAVIA,
you really
tell you, man.
OCTAVIA is gonna be on the hot
Tag,
seat
you're
today.
in.
Yes, it is what it is. So, and now listen, we are going to talk about the book, but just because we're going to discuss the book here today, this does not mean that you should not go out and buy the book. We are going to drop some teasers, here and there, but you need to go out and buy the book. It's on Amazon.com. Okay. So let's start off with some definitions, shall we? Everyone can help OCTAVIA with this part. We're going to help you, OCTAVIA, with some parts of this discussion. And then there are some other parts where we're just going to leave you out here swinging in the wind by yourself.
Yeah, we're just
okay. So let's start with some definitions, because we are going to assume that there are people watching and listening to us right now who have no idea what this narcissism thing is about. They've heard it, maybe, but they are not sure what it means. So let's start from the basics. Who is a narcissist? What's a narcissist? Who wants to jump in and start with that? We all have a little experience with them, so anybody can take it away on that.
Yeah, so from what I've studied, narcissism or narcissist it's a mental health disorder. It's someone who really has an excessive amount of admiration for themselves, and if it's something that's not treated, or if it gets to the extreme, then it can lead to abuse, both verbal, physical, and emotional abuse as well. Yeah, and there are quite a few traits which I'm sure we will mention as we go along.
All right, sounds good. I want to just come in real quick and speak to that mental disorder part, because that's the part that a lot of people, that can be a slippery slope. There is indeed a mental health condition called narcissistic personality disorder, NPD for short. And the way I usually explain it to people is that narcissism exists on a spectrum, kind of in the same way that other conditions exist on a spectrum. For example, we are familiar with autism. Autism exists on a spectrum. You can go from very mild and highly functional to very severe. Narcissism works in much the same way. You can be on the end of the spectrum where it shows up in your relationships, but it's not necessarily to the point where you are so dysfunctional that you need to be seeing a professional who can treat you because it is causing your life to burn to the ground. And so I want us to think of it from that perspective. And if you are on the very, very severe end of the spectrum, then you can officially be diagnosed by a professional like myself with narcissistic personality disorder. It's literally something that you can be diagnosed with on paper and claim on your insurance. It's that serious, right? Now, you may know a narcissist or two in your life, but this does not necessarily mean that they have narcissistic personality disorder. So we do not want to walk around diagnosing everyone just because they display narcissistic tendencies, okay? So I just wanted to put that out there. And I also want to take a moment to greet all of the queens who are in the chat section, because the chat section is already poppity popping. Hello, Charmaine. Hi, Toyan. Hi, Erica. Hi, Anju. Thank you guys for being here. Okay, so does anyone here think that they have encountered someone who is so far down the end of the line that they may actually have narcissistic personality disorder? Like, it's that serious? Possible?
Don't all jump in. Well, like you said, Therese, we are, and as we said earlier in terms of our disclaimer, we are not specialists on this. But what we can attest to is that we would have encountered persons with narcissistic tendencies. In order for someone to be diagnosed as a narcissist or to have narcissistic personality disorder, you would have to diagnose them, and they would have to see that there is something amiss in their lives in order to be diagnosed as such. And most narcissists will not come to you because, according to them or in their perception, there is absolutely nothing wrong with them. And so there are not many records or empirical data of narcissists actually being diagnosed and being treated, unless they don't come out and say that I'm a self-attested narcissist. So it's very unlikely that a full-blown narcissist will come out and say that I need to be treated unless they hit rock bottom. So what we can basically say as layman is that we have encountered persons with narcissistic tendencies. And so the lack of empathy, being unable to understand where another person is coming from, being unable to put yourself in somebody's shoes, so to speak. Always thinking about how it's going to affect you in a selfish way rather than seeing how the other person is going to be affected. It's always basically about you and how things affect you. You sabotage events just because it's not about you, or because you can't see why you have Christmas or you have family gatherings and it's not revolving around the narcissist. It's a really it's a strange personality disorder. I know that we called it a mental health disorder, but it's also a personality disorder that cannot be medicated. And I know that you are more adept at talking about medication. It is not like ADHD or any other mental disorder that can be medicated. Narcissistic personality disorder or people with narcissistic tendencies need talk therapy. And in order for them to understand that there is something inherently wrong, they would have to come to a professional like yourself to sit and talk through it and to have practical exercises to get through their lives. Medication cannot assist, not unless they're dealing with depression or anxiety or any other issues, any side issues, because those things do come with narcissistic tendencies. but it's not a personality disorder that can be medicated.
Fully agree.
And,
Absolutely 100% agree with that.
and
Um, go ahead.
while we're learning as well, is it a situation where they know that they're narcissistic? Would they admit that they are? This is something maybe you can speak to, because maybe
That's
most people
exactly
don't
where I was
yeah,
going. That's exactly where I was going.
never admit that, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that to piggyback on what Jamila was just saying is that as we have mentioned previously, these people have an unreasonably high view of their own importance. Unreasonable, perhaps unrealistic might be a better word to use there. And it is not just that they want that attention and that they want people to admire them. It's a need for them, right? Because this is it's a disorder, right? And so it would not be way off to assume that they also lack the ability to understand how they are behaving and lack the ability to care about how you feel about it or what you think about it, right? Um, because they cannot see themselves the way the rest of us can see them, um, unfortunately. Um, and there is something I wanted to add to that, just another layer, and then I will let you ladies speak on this. But as clinicians, we know that it is well established that narcissistic personality disorder affects more males than females. I don't know if people are aware of this, but this is not me saying this. This is literally a scientific fact. More males are impacted by this disorder than females are. I don't know that there is a specific reason that has been given for this, but I would like for us to talk around it a little bit. What do you think of this?
I think part of it has to do, I don't want to say the P word here. Patriarchy, not that word. Come on,
Oh,
Tess.
sorry. I totally just.
No, that's not it really. It's really that men are naturally favored in terms of, prowess. They're naturally, we naturally expect them to be seeking power and seeking that sort of thing. It's really just natural in a way. And so it gets out of hand because it's an extension of the competition, the status seeking sort of part that we have that is naturally inherent in males. A lot competition, it's something, not that women are not competitive as well, but it's naturally more present in the male species.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah, I think women, the way we were made up, we are more nurturers as opposed to men. As Marcella is saying, they're more competitive. Men are a bit more competitive. They love to be a little more dominating. So I think these are some of their traits that is what helps them to be more, narcissistic, because they don't know to be submissive. This is something that maybe we know of, although things are changing a bit now, where women are now taking the lead in lots of things. But in general, men are a bit more competitive. They love to dominate a bit more. So it's almost like it's part of their nature to be that way. So that's where maybe it's said that they're a bit more, than women.
Not only that, but we cannot deny the fact that, again, I'm sure each of us here was raised, if you have brothers, that you felt the difference between how you were raised as a girl and how boys were raised. I was the only girl in my family, and I saw the difference and I felt the difference. And there is that part where the parents treat boys as if, this is what you're meant to do in life. You're meant to dominate. You're meant to win. You're meant to do this. whereas the woman is taught something different. I mean, times definitely are changing, and women are not accepting that this is what you should be. But it has been something that it's going to take a very long time to unravel that practice and that way that not just in Caribbean societies, in general,
Yes.
the world over.
Yeah.
I am also thinking that, and this is something that popped up in Octavia's writing as well, and I am thinking that religion also plays a huge role. Yes, I went there.
Ah, Marcella's putting her hand up over her mouth.
I went straight there.
Somebody
Somebody has to. And
Mm-hmm.
Octavia, like I said, she spoke to it a little bit in her writing, as to the fact that she was raised in a Christian home, as were I'm sure as were all four of us. Am I
Yes,
wrong?
indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. You would be correct in saying that.
And I am of the view. I am of the view that this contributes significantly. It's linked to the patriarchal systems that Marcella mentioned, and the fact that we are taught, we're socially programmed to accept this notion that that men are meant to exist in a dominant role in this world, that it is their birthright to exist in dominant roles and spaces, while we, on the other hand, are born to submit ourselves to those dominant roles. And I feel personally that these are messages that are very religion based, and we are told that we live in a Christian society as well. And so a lot of the things that we are taught and the social programming that we get as little girls and boys revolves around those religious systems that we are born into. And so I wonder just how much that informs even the way we operate as adults in our relationships, and how much it informs the narcissistic tendencies of the men around us. I said what I said it. Y'all did.
You've said it, and
I said it.
Marcella's giving me this tight-lipped smile because she knows I have a tendency to go off on a tangent whenever that word is mentioned.
I give myself away.
That's an inside joke.
I was trying not to go there. I was trying, but she knew what I was thinking.
Yes,
she was reading my thoughts.
because we're
Jamila
Scorpio
knows,
sisters, and we.
but Jamila knows what Therese just said is exactly the first thing that passes through my mind whenever religion is mentioned. I give myself away.
That's one of my triggers. That's one of my triggers in terms of control. Because I have grown to realize that is another mechanism of control. And I get triggered because anything that threatens to restrict or box in, or Octavia would have said that word before, to submit. Now, when we say submit one to another, we're talking about everybody basically respecting each other's role as a human being. But in religion, submission means doormat. And that is what it has come to be known as. Whether, I don't know which religious leader or pastor is going to tell me that is not what it was meant to be initially, but that is what it has become. It has become that your husband or your male figure is your ultimate leader, and not God, or not your higher power that is your leader, but it's your male figurehead that has become your leader, and whatever they say goes. And I have a personal issue. I take personal issue with that because That is another form of control where you are taking away someone's agency to be a human being. When two people come together, they should be two whole people, and they help to build something. You're not coming with two half of people or two mash up people, and all of a sudden this man who mash up himself is going to come and become your leader, your ultimate leader, and then he say jump off a cliff and we're going to the whole family jumping off this cliff. I just cannot fathom that. So we have an ultimate leader who has not grown past 7 years old and has gone through trauma in their own lives and has not figured out a way to deal with their trauma. And so they lash out at you, the person or persons who are closest to them. Now, in my situation, let me try to be diplomatic. I had a 7-year-old in a grown man's body. And I was basically raising this person, but at the same time, this person was supposed to assume dominance over me. And I was supposed to shrink myself to do whatever the 7-year-old said. Now, imagine this. Josh is almost 14. He's not 13 according to him. He's almost 14. You know how teenagers go. Imagine if I were to take instructions from my almost 14-year-old son. This is what we're likening narcissists to. They're in a state of arrested development where they have not grown past 6 or 7 years old due to whatever trauma they would have experienced in their childhood. And so you will find a 38, 42, 51-year-old, 63-year-old man who is still 7, based on what trauma they would have experienced at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And we are supposed to submit to that. I remember being on a religious Bible study during COVID. And the things that were being spouted according to what the good book said, and I have no problem with the good book. I apply what Holy Spirit tells me wherever the good book advises. But when you're going to take the good book literally, and you're going to tell me that there is only one condition that someone can leave a marital relationship or otherwise, it's only under one thing. But you are leaving the fact that this person is verbally, emotionally, financially, and other deficient. And you're only giving me one out, and I cannot leave because this person didn't do this one thing, and I must stay in a relationship because this person did not commit this particular infraction. Marcel, I'm getting passionate. You see me getting on right now. Please reel me back in. I am not going to subscribe to another form of control. Now, I come out of one session. You want to put me in the next one? No, I am not going to sit and just sit and accept that. And I know that there are some people who are going to come for me.
We're not here to fight. We're lovers, not fighters. Okay, so Therese, I'm going to put it back in your hands because Octavia is supposed to be sharing a poem from her book with us.
Yes, please. Let's give Jamila an opportunity to drink some water.
Yes. Water over here.
And I'm going to turn it over to Octavia right now because Octavia did what the rest of us have not done.
True.
With as much knowledge as we may have, the rest of us did not dare write it down in a book.
That is true.
And Octavia did. And we applaud you, Queen, for doing this.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to share with us that first poem in your book, which is called I Speak My Truth. And then from there, I want you to tell us what made you decide, you know what, I am totally going to write this down and put it out there?
Yeah. So the poem, I Speak My Truth. I endeavor to speak my truth through hurt and pain, to seek my freedom and healing, to conquer my demons and banish my fears. My truth I speak to teach my child, my flesh and blood, that only the truth can set one free. To speak my truth will pave the way to let her know that silence is not okay. To, to help bring healing to a sister, relieve emotional anguish for a mother, overcoming spiritual battles, enlightening the mind, leaving fear behind. Yes, my truth will win. My truth always wins. And this explains in a nutshell the reason for writing the book. People ask the question all the time, what motivated you and why did you do it? But for me, it was part of my healing process as well. Because when you write, I'm going over the same things over and over in my mind, and it helped me to conquer some of my fears as well. There are things maybe sometimes I did not want to think about. I didn't want to go there because of how much it hurt. But putting it down on paper really helped me, and it's still it helped with part of my healing process. Also, it says here to teach my child. When I became a mom, you bring this entire human being into this world, someone that care for. And I say to myself, things need to change. I need to teach this child to be the best version of herself. I want when she comes to me that I can say, well, this is what mommy did. I don't want to say, well, this is what you should do, but then I did something totally different. So for me, doing this is to also help me to live by, example, because she's going to get to an age where she will have relationships. And if she gets to such a roadblock, that I am able to guide her and help her through by what I went through and the decisions that I made. So it was really tough as well, because putting this out there too, I was like, well, how will it affect my relationship with her as well? And I thought about it, and I said, as she grows older and she can really read and understand, then she will have a greater appreciation for this as well. So this is some of my, reasons for writing, even to just help other people, because there's so many women. Since I've written this book, there's so many people who've reached out. So many people are going through the same experience, who's been through it, and people share as well. And I just decided, why not share and just be graphic with it? Just put it all out there and help someone else. The silence is not okay. That's what I want people to know. The silence is not okay. It's time we break the silence on abuse, on narcissism, because we have to evolve. We have to get to the next stage. Just like the church taught us to be quiet, to hold on, make it work. The church taught us that. Our parents, before, that's what they knew, and they taught us the same thing. Don't leave, just talk to him. You can work it out. You can make it work. And that's what we were taught. But now is the time. We're now living in an age where we have so much information at hand, and we need to do better now because we know better. So we need to break the silence, and that's my reason for writing as well, to get people to know it's okay. Society will say what they want, people will criticize, but it's okay. Sharing will help quite a bit of other people as well.
You just to jump in here, Octavia, you just said something about paying it forward to people who have gone through these experiences but don't have the voice, either because they are filled with fear about what people are going to say. And I know in church we call these generational curses, but these are really psychological patterns of behavior that were passed down from our generations. Mm-hmm. And what you are doing here is really educating your daughter and other children who are going to come after us. And it's my responsibility as well, having gone through this situation, to pass down to my boy, this is not how you treat anybody and my daughter to not accept that type of behavior. And so you hit the nail on the head, but you mentioned something as well in terms of what people are going to say. I think a lot of us have suffered from not just imposter syndrome, but what people are going to say syndrome. And I mean, at the age that we are right now, I don't know that we care very much. I'm 48 in November. I know you ladies might not want to say how old you're going to be, but I don't know that I care very much anymore. So speaking our truth is what is out there right now. What kind of feedback have you been getting? I know you've been getting a lot of positive, but I know you've been getting some negatives as well, because we would have spoken off camera a few days ago. And some flying monkeys, and we have to get to some terminologies as well, and some people who may not understand what you would have gone through. Tell us about the negative responses. I'm the bearer of bad news tonight. Let me play devil's advocate. You've been getting positive reviews, but what are some of the negatives that you've been receiving because you have spoken your truth?
Well, we have people who, are curious, and it's okay to be curious. It's like, why would you do this? What's your motive? Is it that you hear people say, well, she's bitter. So she's so bitter that she's putting this, she's putting this out there. Just so many, comments along that line that, why don't women keep their private? Someone actually said it's good for women to keep their private business to themselves. So that's something else. Again, it's about keeping quiet. Nobody wants to know your business. Nobody wants to know what you're going through. It's like you're looking for pity from others, and these are some of the negatives that I've been receiving. And it's coming from women, and women who I think too maybe would have gone through, women who might be in the same situation, women who are also broken. And it's a shame that, we as women can't come together to help each other. But again, I said it's okay because everyone in their own time, but we have to be more supportive. We have to be more supportive when it comes to.
I just want to add to what you're saying there. First of all, I also want to point out a comment that I just saw from Erica Edwards, which said it's difficult to win a war against someone who is at war with themselves. Narcissists are deeply hurt people that no one can heal, and that is a fact. But to what you mentioned regarding the silence, we have a very long way to go in our societies. I keep saying it's not just the Caribbean. People love to say, oh, Antigua alone or whatever Caribbean country. It's all over the world. The culture of silence, where you think that by saying nothing, by hiding it, it's going to, I'm not even sure what people think the silence achieves. But what it in fact achieves is it helps people who are that way to continue to be that way. It helps the people who are being abused to remain abused. Mm-hmm. And this applies to things such as pedophilia as well. We know that uncle who your great aunt so-and-so said not to go by. There are all of these things. So we have to unlearn the things that we have been taught and understand that, again, this conversation is happening not because we just want to sit here and talk about narcissists, but we want the people to start looking around in your life and looking at whatever situation you're in and asking yourself, is there more that I do not know that I need to know? Do I need to start researching what is this narcissism they're talking about? Because you'd be surprised when you really study it and you look around and you realize, oh my goodness, this person, this is what these patterns that they have shown over the last 10 years. This is what it means. This is why this person has constantly stirred up trouble everywhere they went, in every situation. There are patterns associated with them, and you need to learn them. I don't want to say what Papa Bird said, but we need to read. We need to learn. We need to spend time.
Say it.
What we do not know. I'm a big advocate for reading, and I really think we don't read enough. We need to read. Yeah. And you need to actually investigate what causes this. Am I raising a narcissist? And we mentioned this the last time, because like we said earlier in this conversation, males are at a greater risk of becoming narcissists, and part of it is also how they are raised. But in general, We kind of gave it a summary last week, not last week, the last time we had this conversation, by saying that they're either overloved or underloved. That's the synopsis of how one is formed. Because when you have somebody whose parent is telling them you are special, not we're all special, but you are more special than anybody else in the world, and you grow up with that is what then leads to entitlement. That's what then leads to not caring about other people's feelings, about having any empathy for people in general, because in your head, there's nobody else who needs to be happy but me.
Yes.
You have a problem with that? So, yes.
And then, of course, the underloved aspect. So we're talking about two
ends of a spectrum of how a narcissist
there is
formed.
no middle ground. So you have the overloved who is told that they are more special than anybody else, coddled and given everything that they want, spoiled to the hilt. And then there is the abused or the ones who grew up in neglect and abject poverty, who had emotionally unavailable parents, who didn't have that nurturing that we would have all desired. I mean, a lot of us grow up in some sort of dysfunction, man. You know, we have come up with parents who had life issues and probably didn't have some of the psychological things to help them navigate life. I mean, we have psychotherapists now, and we have medication. We have so many things. Our parents used and worked with what they had at the time. But some people were just probably affected differently than others, because I have empirical data in my own relationships and interactions with people, where some people were brought up in the very same way but turned out totally different. You know, so a person who was brought up in abject neglect and poverty, who decides that I'm going to create a new persona, and I am never, ever going to be poverty stricken again. So whatever it takes to get ahead is what I'm going to employ. I'm going to step on people's toes. I'm going to cut throat. I'm going to be evil and do whatever it is, whatever it takes to get ahead is what I'm going to employ. And so you have, as Marcella would have said, the overloved and the underloved. So that is what we're dealing with here. But in between, maybe the ones who have narcissistic tendencies, and I believe we all do, and you would agree with me, Therese. We all do have selfish tendencies as human beings. We look out for ourselves, but there are those of us in the middle who can actually introspect and look at ourselves and say, you know what, that was not cool, or I could have handled this differently, or you know what, I think something is off inside of me and I want to speak to a therapist. A narcissist from either side of the spectrum would never think there is something wrong with them to go to a therapist like you, Therese, and say, I need help.
Yeah. I want to jump in. I want to say two things. And I would also like to highlight a few comments from our chat section. The first thing I want to say is that we have to teach our children how to choose the people that they partner with and do life with. I don't think this is something that we teach our children. I believe that the vast majority of us learn this through trial and error. We choose and choose and choose several times over until hopefully we get it right. Unfortunately, there are some people who never get it right. They just keep choosing for the entire duration of their adult life.
Patterns.
I see this happen all the time. And I believe with all my heart that this is a thing that you can be taught. I know that there are a lot of skills that we teach our children because we have been told this is a skill you should teach a child. But there are a number of skills that nobody ever says that you should teach to a child that children absolutely need to be taught. And I think this is one of them. I want to highlight a comment from earlier in the discussion that Karen made. Karen said women need to be taught, right? I'm not ignoring the rest of her statement, but I just want to say that that is a profound truth. But I want to change something. It's not the women that need to be taught. It's the little girls that need to be taught.
Mhm.
Karen went on to say that we are helpmates and that scripture doesn't teach us that men are supposed to lord it over us. She is correct. But who teaches the little girls this? Where do they learn this? Who explains this in good English to them? Absolutely nobody. They figure this out on their own at some point along the way, or maybe they don't. I want to highlight another comment further down. Auntie Heather, she says, we're not being our authentic selves. We are imposters. This is another thing that children can be taught. You can be taught to show up either as a completely authentic version of yourself, or alternatively, you can be taught to show up as the version of yourself that is most acceptable.
Yeah.
Most children are taught the latter, not the former, because our parents were not taught the former. And so often showing up as an authentic version of yourself with your own little thoughts and your own little opinions and your own little points of view and your own little worldview as a little human. That's not a thing in our households, in our cultural community. You don't get an opinion if you are below 3 feet tall. You are to be seen and not heard. Isn't that what we're taught? Children are to be seen and not heard. How do you learn to show up as an authentic version of yourself under those circumstances? And I want to scroll down again. Just one more comment I'm going to pop up. One more. Well, okay, maybe two. Auntie Heather said again, I have had to unlearn so much of how I was socialized. And I would like to submit that for many of us, not just as women, but as men, this platform targets women. So we speak primarily to women, but this applies to men as well. Many times the work that you go to therapy to do is not to become anything. It's to unbecome all the things that you should never have become in the first place, because they're just not who you are. We become a lot of things so that we can fit in to the molds that society has built for us. And we live in a prison of other people's opinions and expectations. And often when I see people for therapy, it's not because they're trying to learn something new, really. It's because they're going back to find the version of themselves that they really ought to have been before the world got its hands on them. And so it's not a becoming, but really an unbecoming many times.
Yes.
Right? And the final thing I'm going to say, because I'm getting a little passionate here. Last thing, really the last thing. The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to go back to Octavia, because I need Octavia to talk about her daughter and how she is ensuring that these messages are hitting home for her daughter. Because when you heal yourself, when you do the work of healing, you are healing your mother, you're healing your sister queens. And here's the big part. This is why this is sacred work. You're healing every generation that comes from you.
Yes.
Your children who will have a healthier parent, and their children who will also have healthier and more functional parents. And as a result, with each generation that has come from you, they should be healthier and more functional. This is why this is sacred work, because you very rarely, when you do healing work, you very rarely are around to see the fruit that comes from the trees you plant. But you have to do the work.
Yes.
So, on that note, let's pivot and let's talk about the children that we are raising. And we're going to start with Octavia, who has a daughter.
Mhm.
How are you making sure that this is registering on her brain? And I know from the book, from reading, that she became literally a pawn in the separation between you and this narcissist that you wrote about. Like, he at one point was literally using her. He literally weaponized her and used her against you. And I felt that somewhere deep in my spirit when I read that, because that is trauma for her. I want to know, how are you making sure these things are registering on her brain in the healthiest way possible so that she turns into a woman who is highly functional and who can spot a narcissist from around the corner?
So I've done a few interviews, like radio interviews so far, and every time I've been asked this question, I sort of sway away from it because it's a bit emotional for me when I speak of it. So just bear with me if I do get a bit emotional today, because I try to avoid it so much. So my daughter at this point, she's not with me. And again, it's going back to giving her, a say as well. As you said, she's been weaponized to some effect, and that's why she's not really with me at this moment. But trying to be a good a good parent, what I had to do was to let her go in all of this, because by not letting her go, I knew that it would really come back, to affect me in a sense. I didn't want her to, turn her mind. I didn't want to be so forceful in certain decisions that it would actually, turn her mind from me. So I had to let go with hopes that eventually she will come back, because the narcissist is, exactly who, they are. And eventually the true colors will show, and maybe she will get a chance to see and to, come back. So I have not gotten that chance to really, hit home with her. One of my books, actually, I have put aside for her. I've written a letter and I've placed it in the book and I've put it aside for her. So in time when she returns, that she can get to read the book and she can see and she can understand why, I did the things. And I battled with even letting her go as well, because I said it could also come back on the reverse where she say, well, mommy, why did you, fight for me? But at this stage, I think she can't understand that. And since it is a situation where the other parent is sort of in the head, and she is wanting to be there. So I had to just let her go and make that decision. It's a very painful decision, and it's really not in a good place. So it's a very sensitive topic. And what's more hurtful is that you hear that you don't have your daughter because you're an awful mom. You don't have your child because the court take your child away. You don't have her because just so many things you hear, on the street as to why she's not with you. But she's really not with me because I made the conscious decision to let her go, because I know she will come back to me. So I'm waiting for the day when I can really sit with her and explain things and, show her, because I know it's coming. I just have to be, patient and wait for the time that I can. It's unfortunate because now is a good time where she should be learning, and I'm, getting her to the point where she understands certain things. But sometimes things don't always happen the way we want them. Sometimes they have to happen a bit in the reverse, and that's basically what's happening right now.
Okay,
Well,
I'm going to go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just, I think we were all feeling the
Yeah.
emotions that were coming from Octavia in speaking about this, and we can understand, of course, why it is such an emotional journey for you. But as she has said this, I also want to bring attention to the fact that one of the reasons, again, we are having this discussion is that there are many disorders out there. You have anxiety disorder, you have people who have depression. Normally, those things mainly affect the individual who is going through it. This thing is the only thing that destroys everybody else on the outside. That is one of the points that we need to think about when it comes to how narcissistic personality disorder and people who have these patterns, how it affects everything around them, the people around them. It goes far and wide. And so it's important to understand it so that you know what you're dealing with.
I just wanted to jump in and tell you, Octavia, I wish you continued strength. As a mom myself of two beautiful children, I cannot imagine the kind of pain that you're going through having to, and I found myself, well, I think I started off being very triggered today, so I have to admit that and be very upfront with you guys that I got triggered by a couple of things, but especially because of the children. I am putting myself in your shoes. I guess that means I'm not a narcissist because they can't introspect and they don't have empathy. So I'm putting myself in your shoes. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my two children. I am just telling you what's Toyan saying there, coming, Jamila. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my two children. And so I wish you continue strength and grace to manage this situation that you're going through. And that's coming from my heart.
I also wanted to chime in and just, give my support. And you have lots of love coming from the chat section, Octavia. You have Melina giving you some muscles there. Melissa is telling you that you have absolutely nothing to feel guilty about for putting your story out there. And Sheila is sending you love and hugs. And I want to add my voice to that and say two things. First thing I would like to say is don't give up on your daughter. Don't give up on her. Because she's going to come around. And here is why I believe she's going to come around. I believe she's going to come around because what I have learned over the course of my own life is that there's a certain wisdom that only comes with growing old. Nobody can teach it to you. It doesn't matter how many people try to tell you, look, this is how it goes. It does not register until you have lived. It's just there's a certain type of wisdom that you can only acquire from living. And I believe it's just a thing I feel in my spirit. I believe that your daughter she hasn't lived enough life yet. I believe this. She hasn't lived enough life yet, but the day is going to come. The day is going to come. She's going to grow. She's going to evolve. She's going to get older. And with time, she'll come full circle. And I believe this. This is. I am believing this for you. So we are all believing this on your behalf, even in the moments when it is difficult for you to believe this yourself. We will believe for you that that day is coming, and we are waiting for that full circle moment to come, right? Um, so hang in tough. Now, here is where I'm going to go next. I want you to know that it's already 8 minutes after 7. Just thought I'd put that out there. An hour and 8 minutes have already gone. Okay. All right. With that being said, I, since we are talking about the pain that has been associated with telling your story, pain associated with people criticizing your decision, pain associated with uh, how it has impacted your relationship with your child, and perhaps other relationships in your life, and just the pain associated with the experience, period. I am a believer that pain is never wasted. I don't think pain is ever wasted. We don't like it, of course, but it's never wasted. It's like labor pains. Nobody likes labor pains, but they are not wasted because life comes from it. And so I feel like that is a metaphor that can be applied to the pain that we experience as we journey through life. I believe pain works purpose. So, my question to you is, do you look at the experience that you went through as somehow being linked to your purpose and the work that you were put here on the earth to do? How, does this resonate with you? How do you feel about this idea that maybe this is somehow giving way to your purpose in life?
It's funny you would ask this question because growing up or after I left school, I knew I wanted to study sociology because I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to be a counselor. That's what I wanted to do. But, at the time, I don't think, my dad was able to, to do that for me. So I went on to do other things where I could go out quickly and get a job and, and make money. I mean, that has been going, pretty well. But after this experience, and I've written this book, and I see how much people have, reached out, to me, how people, are calling in, and you get to actually talk to people, to listen to them. So for me, it's like I'm now pondering and saying, well, is this a way of taking me back to where I should have been in the first place? And what it is I'm really going to do, going forward to help me. One of the reasons too, when I wrote this book, I really thought about it, and I said, even with my child, that was a factor, that really, really, really was on my mind. I said, what's the relationship going to be like? Is it going to affect her? Am I going to lose my child in all of this? And I said, I think I have a purpose. We all have a purpose. And I think this is part of mine. It's to help. It's to reach people. And I said, my daughter, I love her dearly, but she's one person in this entire world. And it may sound a bit funny or maybe even selfish in a sense, but I think I know she will come around. But I think if I had not done this just because of how it would affect this one person, then I think I would hinder myself from even fulfilling my purpose and my calling. So I think there is a work to do. I think the book is helping me to do that, and now I just need to rethink, well, where do you go from there? So this has taken me to that point where I'm rethinking, should I go back to school? Should I, do a few courses in along that line? because I think maybe that's where this is leading me now, taking me to a totally different path altogether.
Listen, I'm recruiting therapists. So, yes, you should go back to school. Yes, that's a yes. I love it.
I think, well, Marcella and I know that we've been discussing with our gifting for communication. This is where our purpose lies. The experiences that we have had, and the way that we relay information to people under the sound of our voices, the way we're able to explain to people who may not be able to understand what they are actually experiencing, what the terminologies are, what you are actually going through in your life, and having had the experience to wear the t-shirt, then I think that I'm speaking for Stella, but I know that she will jump in on it as well. I believe that we are also fulfilling purpose. We're not just communicators to read the news or to write PR stories or to work for a company and advance the cause of that company through our creativity and our knack for the gift of gab. We also were put on this earth for a higher purpose than ourselves. And when we took up the mantle to become communicators, I believe that is what we were intended to become, a voice for the voiceless, and we speak in a way that people can understand and relate to. So if you can't understand me when we talk the Queen's, well,
King's English.
Then you can understand me when we switch over to my linguistic and talk my little dialect. So if you can't understand me on that level, then we can go on the other end. But I believe that that is our gifting, and Sally, you can jump in on that if you so desire.
Well, I'm going to go back to what Therese said, which is that pain births purpose. Pain is never wasted. And I always give thanks, first of all, when I've gone through something, no matter what it is, because I recognize that and we're not saying that we deserve it and we need pain to live and all of this stuff, but part of life, it's like the ocean. It has ebbs and flows. You cannot live in a constant state of happy. You will have moments, but when those moments come, it is I think we've always heard this, how you choose to reflect on the moment, what you choose to learn from the moment. And so that is why I have studied this for 10 years, because I chose to say, like, let me research this thing, because it has affected me in such an awful way that I need to know more about it. And then I need to be able to help my friends. This is not the only reason that Jamila and I are very close, but we are the friends who have had hours and hours and hours of discussion about things that we have gone through, what we have learned, what we've noticed. And it's just very important to be able to be that person who can be that for somebody else, because a lot of people do not yet feel comfortable to open up, because we live in such a culture of, what are people going to say? What about this? Who cares what people are going to say? It's your life. And I fully believe that we must be committed to our own peace and our own joy ahead of anything else. So when you need to be healed, when you need to do something that is going to take you from a place of unpleasant unhappiness, who cares what people think? Who cares what people are going to say? You have to step out and believe, I need to do whatever it is for myself in this moment, because people are not wearing my size 10 shoes. I'm wearing them. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, the choices I make, the things that I'm learning, the unpopular decisions. Jamila can speak about her unpopular decisions that people probably still talk about, And so it's just important to, moment by moment, take the steps that need to be taken. Find your tribe. Find the people who are going to allow you to speak without judgment, without telling one of the things that we see and hear constantly whenever there's a situation, you see it online all the time. Why you didn't leave? Why you didn't this? Why you didn't that? It's not easy when you're being traumatized. when you are losing your mind because somebody is gaslighting you, when you are wondering if I'm the one who's crazy here. And I'm speaking from experience in this moment. You know, nobody would know it or see it, but I have gone through situations where I really legitimately stopped and wondered, is it me? Am I the crazy one here? Because you can't believe some of the things that you're going through. And you just think this cannot be real. This does not make sense. So there must be something else. And this is where talking to people comes in. So I think I've said a whole lot, but the whole idea was that, yes, having gone through the pain we have experienced in each way, you as a therapist, Octavia, she's written a book. Jamila and I were talkers and communicators for other people, but also for women. I have a strong love for wanting to see women grow and heal, because too often women are pushed into a corner and they're expected to be quiet, and women should. Women do whatever the heck they want to do. So that's,
I want to highlight a question, or two questions rather, that Toyan posted earlier, and I want us to see if we can respond to her questions. And then I want us to go back to the book. And Octavia, let me give you a heads up of which page I want us to look at in the book. I want us to go to that poem on page 49 of the book, which is entitled You Said. And the reason why I want to highlight this poem and have you speak on this poem is because this goes to the heart of what narcissists do to you. They try to break your soul.
Yes.
Like Beyonce said. Is that what the song says?
You won't
break my soul.
I'm not going to even try
We're
to
not
sing.
singers, we're talkers. Let's
No.
pull it back.
But pull it back. But that is quite literally, that is their primary goal. We're laughing about it, but literally that's their primary goal, is to break your soul. When they are done with you, they want you to feel like nothing. And that is where I want to go next with the discussion. And I feel like that poem hits the nail on the head. I would love to hear you talk about that and how that impacted your life. But first, let's pull up these two questions from Toyan, because I think these are questions we need to answer. I don't think we should overlook these questions. Let me see if I can pull them up. Here they are. Toyan is asking, can we then say that parents can actually cultivate narcissists? Are we born narcissists, or do circumstances create narcissistic behaviors or tendencies? These are important questions. Anybody want to jump in?
I'm going to jump in because this is one of the most frequently asked questions, and we kind of answered that before, but I'm going to say it again for anyone who is just joining. Any study that you do, any therapist that you have watched or listened to will tell you that narcissists they're not born. People are not born narcissists. They are created. And they're created, we summed it up in our way by saying they're either overloved or underloved. In the underloved situation, they are neglected. They have a situation where they do not have any parents who are consistent, and consistency is the key. There must be at least one consistent parent. One. Both would be great, but we know the society we live in, so we need one consistent parent. So that's the underloved situation, where you have neglect, you have abuse, you have all of those things. And because of that, this child, it starts at childhood. The child is creating a different self. And as that self grows into an adult, they have lost who they were. They have carried with them this grandiosity because they want to let go of the negative effects of their traumatic upbringing. On the other end is the overlove. This is the child whose parent gives them the world. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the things that they do not teach them in giving them the world. And in giving them the world as well, they sometimes make them feel the world revolves only around you, my love. You are special and more special than anybody else to ever have existed. And so those children grow into adulthood with that same mentality. I am greater than, I am the best, I am the biggest, I am the everything. And they also tend to want to associate with people who they think are like that too. So you will find if you are Jamila Kirwan, they'll want to associate with Jamila Kirwan because they think, oh, she's a media personality, she's a person, carnival queen, all of these things. I want to be her friend because they have put worth in that. So a narcissist, to sum it up, is created. They're not born. And this is why we said earlier in the program again, you have to ask yourself, how am I raising my children? What am I teaching my children? Have I taught my children to see people as human beings? Or have I taught them to see other people as I'm better than you? I'm a better woman than you. Remember that whole thing? Them to love everybody. Have we taught them to share? Have we taught them, how to accept disappointment and defeat? Because that is also narcissist rage. The minute you tell them you're not perfect, the minute anything says you're not the biggest, whatever it is in the world, rage, because they have not been taught to understand defeat, to understand losing. It's part of life. You've got to learn it and you've got to teach it.
There is something, to sum up what Marcella is saying, there is something called a false self that is created. It's almost like multiple personality disorder, where you discard your old self that brings you shame, whatever trauma you would have experienced or they would have experienced. They would discard that old self and create for them a new persona that is never wrong, that is always right, projects onto you because they cannot own their own dysfunction. And so in order to soothe themselves, because they are fundamentally incapable of regulating their own emotions, so they would project onto you. It's a strange kind of dynamic, especially if you are codependent. And I know that we're going to go into a totally different territory when we start talking about that. If you have a partner who is codependent, the narcissist will project onto you their dysfunction so that they don't have to carry that. So it is you. You are at fault. It is your problem. You are the dysfunctional one. You are the bipolar one. You are the depressed one. You're the anxious one. You're the one with all the problems, not me. And that is why you would hardly find a narcissist coming to Therese for treatment, because nothing is ever wrong with them. Meanwhile, the person who is normal or normal by societal standards, who will go to a therapist to say, look, I find that something is wrong, or maybe how you were brought up maybe codependent, you start to feel like something is wrong with you. Marcella would have alluded to the crazy making in her earlier discussion, where she tried to figure out, am I the one who's crazy? Anybody who has to do that introspection and ask themselves, am I the one who's crazy? Am I the one who needs to go see a therapist? You are not the narcissist. Narcissists do not ask themselves that question because nothing is wrong with them. So they are fundamentally incapable of normalizing or validating their selves. That's why they go outside of themselves for external validation. And it's like it's like a sieve or a strainer. They look for external validation and you pour it into them. It's like it just runs out. They're never full because they cannot regulate their own emotions. And so their partner will give and give and give and give. And that partner will become depleted and exhausted. And that narcissist will look for fuel. We talk about fuel from other sources, because when that partner becomes depleted, they have to find it from somewhere else because they are empty inside.
I think this is what Lisa Peters is saying. Lisa says that they need a new narcissistic supply. When you figure them out, they move on to a new supply. But I wanted to respond to this question that Melina asked. Melina is asking, is it overloved or overprotective? Are those two interchangeable?
Well, I think when parents overprotect and all of that, they say it's in the name of love. So I'm going to go with both. You keep saying it's because I love my child. I don't want them to touch grass because I don't want them to get any germs. There are parents like this. So it's an extension of that parent themselves who have not dealt with their own trauma that then does this to their children.
All right. Let's go over to back to the book for a moment, to this poem, which Octavia, you can read that for us, and then talk a little bit about what was behind this when you wrote this poem, because this sounds like he was trying to break your soul, sis. What was going on here?
So the poem said, "You said. When I said I was leaving, you said, you will be nothing without me because I made you. I gave you my point of view and you said, you think you know it all, you're full of it. When I was confident in my own skin, you said, you think you are so beautiful. I have been with better looking women than you. I told you I bring just as much to the table. You said, you are not and will never be my equal. I worked late and extended hours. You said, you slave for the white man. You will never get ahead. I ventured into my own business. You said, now you are making some money. It's getting to your head. These are the words I remember you said." So the purpose of a narcissist is to break you, to make you feel less than, to shame you into submission. And for me, this is the experience that I went through. That's why it will take me to another part of the book that says in time. And what I would like to say to us is that we have to be patient with people who are going through, because what a narcissist does is really he targets your mind. He targets you mentally, because once you've got someone mentally, then you can basically control their every move going forward. So sometimes, as Marcella was saying, we say to individuals, well, why don't you leave? What's taking you so long? But after they've been damaged mentally, then, it's really, really hard to move on. It's hard to think, differently. And that's where you start asking yourself as well, when they gaslight you, you say, well, am I the crazy one? How do I get out of this? Is he right? Am I wrong? Because of how they put it forward, and they work on your mind constantly. So all of this was basically to break me down, to make me feel less than, to take away my self-confidence. So then, I could be controlled in the way that the narcissist wanted to control me. So we have to be mindful and just be patient with people when they're going through, because maybe Therese, who's the professional, can tell us, the impact that it has, on someone mentally, what they can do to you mentally. And once you've conquered someone's mind, because our mind is a very powerful thing, it can make us and it can break us. So for me, I was quite lucky that I had very high self-esteem, growing up, and I kept true to it. So even when certain things were said to me, like, oh, you think you're beautiful, I would say, I know I'm beautiful, and I would do things to show that I am. So I never bought into certain things, although I know sometimes it takes a toll on you, because you go out there and so many people would say, would pay you compliments, so, oh, you're so beautiful, you're this, but the person that you're actually with, who should be showing that love, find it difficult to pay you, a decent compliment. So then over the years, you hear these things, and I say, well, I know where this is going, so you just have to take your vibration up a little higher and continue to be confident. But the dangerous thing is, working on the mind, which is what a narcissist does, really try to get you mentally. So then the other level of control can follow through.
Yeah. I remember story time. I remember once I had a partner who would, and this would be a regular thing, who would wait until we were dressed and going out the door, going out to a function, a wedding, a date, wherever. And I would get dressed, sometimes in something new that I bought that I thought looked fantastic on me. And as we're about to go out the door, this is when he would say to me, how terrible I look in that dress. Literally, as we're on our way out the door, when there's no opportunity for me to go and change. So the goal is to tell me how terrible I look as we're going out the door, so that I can think about that in that dress that I apparently look so awful in for the entire time that we are out.
And feel insecure.
And feel insecure for the whole night or function, wherever it. That's just an example of what Octavia was just talking about. It's like they want to crush you. It's wild.
But they want to crush you for a reason. And it is to soothe their wounded ego, because any compliment that you get, not even you, somebody who gets an accolade, somebody who got a promotion, anybody, it's not even just about you. It could be a total stranger who is getting hyped up by maybe one or two persons, or receiving any kind of accolade. They receive it as an insult or an injury or an affront to themselves. So it triggers an insecurity inside of them. And so not just with you, but with other people, as I would have mentioned, it triggers an insecurity inside of them, because they're really insecure people, Mm-hmm. We might think that narcissists are so bold and so serious and so out front, but they're really just insecure children. And in order to soothe this trigger that has gone off inside of them without them even understanding or knowing how to manage that emotion, they lash out at you to say something that will cut you down to make themselves feel better. Mm-hmm. That is a long-winded way of saying that they don't like to hear anybody except them getting a compliment or receiving some kind of accolade, because it triggers a feeling of insecurity inside of them, or something less than, or something broken. And that false self, as we mentioned before, cannot ever be wrong. And it can never have any kind of inferiority complex about it. And so it's not going to receive that well. It has to be projected outwards. And you have to carry their crap and their dysfunction, because they cannot own it. And so that is the reason for them projecting their stuff onto you, so you can carry it. So when you start to feel crazy and you start to feel like, you're carrying all this heaviness, you're not carrying your stuff, you're carrying their stuff.
Yeah.
And it took us, I know I can say that, it took all of us a very long time to come to grips with what we are really struggling with. We're not carrying our stuff. Maybe some parts of it is ours, and we're coming with what is ours. How do we attract these people? What is it about us that attracts these kinds of people? Is it codependency? So how can I get past that aspect of me? I can introspect and figure that out. They can't. And so they load this thing onto us. We carry our stuff plus their stuff. And that is why a lot of people are trauma bonded and trying to figure out, am I the one who's crazy? That's why they do that.
Yeah. It's because as well too that they always want that attention. So the focus must always be me. The focus needs to be on me. So anything that will remove that focus, they get threatened by. So if you're a really strong and confident woman, then it's difficult for a narcissist to contain you. So the next step is to really try to break you down, or as we would say, cut you down to size. So they can really have you where they would want you to be. It's like they can't contain you. You're too much. If we go out together, you're beautiful, you'll be getting all of the compliments. People just look at me, you're taking away from me. So it's always trying to get you to a place where you're quiet, you're kept in a corner, you speak when I say, you follow my lead, sort of, so they can get to shine all the time. So that's,
I want to quickly highlight a comment from Serene. And Serene, by the way, is a psychotherapist as well. And so this is excellent. Serene says, narcissists tend to come into treatment under the guise of their partner or spouse being the crazy one or the person who is creating conflict, right? So they do go to therapy, but they're going to therapy to complain about the fact that their partner is problematic, right? This is interesting. Imagine being the therapist sitting in the session with that going on, right? Because and there's another poem in here that Octavia wrote called "If Only," which reminds me of what a therapy session looks like under those circumstances. Because the narcissist is like, if she would only do X, then I could stop doing Y. That's the problem,
It's always your fault. Yeah, someone else. Yeah, not taking responsibility for their action. Mm-hmm.
It's not me. It's her. If she would only listen to me, then I would not have to load her up in public and embarrass her. You know what I mean?
You caused me to do it,
You forced me to behave like this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe we should let Octavia read that poem.
I think we should. I would love to hear it.
Page 59.
59. It said, if only you would listen to me and do as I say, you would be better off. We could be so much happier if only you would fulfill my desires. I would stay home. I would be faithful. You can get so much more from this relationship if only you would take care of me, guard my belongings, pamper me when I'm home. I have no problems with committing if only you would complain less. Understand I'm out working late. Meeting and networking are my life. If only we would conform and change, life would be a breeze. So it's about not taking, accountability. Things can change, we can get better, but first you need to change. So the crazy one, is telling you that you need to make all the changes. It's your fault why this is happening to you. This can really, really be an easy fix if you would just conform. So again, they're trying to get you into the place, that they want you to be. So if you want me to be a particular way, then this is what I require of you. And what they require of you really is for you to be, in submission to their every need and to what they would want. So this is a very, powerful one again, where the narcissist is just trying as hard as he can to devalue you. Again, it's like, it's you. Can't you see? You are the problem, not me. And that's where we go to the gaslighting again, where you start asking yourself, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I can change a few things, or should I? Maybe I should try this, and then let's see if he actually gets better. And sometimes we actually fall for it, and we do it. Sometimes we try, but then it never works because as we say, he goes back to finding something else that you're still not doing right to get the results that you would want. So it's a trait of a narcissist to just really try to break you in any chance that he gets. Yeah.
Can we answer this question? Well, it's not really a question. It's
not a
more of a
question.
comment. Yeah, just can we talk a little bit about the covert and the overt narcissist?
Jamila, take it away.
I see Jamila is ready.
Always putting me on the spot.
I know which areas you excel at.
Oh my word, you know me, my friend. So the overt narcissist is the one who you see before you hear you hear them before you see them. They are they're what you call the grandiose narcissist, and they're the ones who are the loudest, who want to be seen, who want to be heard. And let me just go back a little bit to say that you did mention earlier that narcissism exists on a spectrum. So not every loud, gregarious person that you hear suffers from NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder. They may have some narcissistic tendencies. All of us as human beings inherently do. So I don't know if Donald Trump is 350, and I don't know if any other politician is 250 or 180. I don't know where they rank on the scale, but what you can observe is patterns of behavior. And so the person who is out there, always attention seeking, always has to be the loudest, always has to, you have to hear them coming. They know it all. They are an authority on every topic. It doesn't matter, politics, science, religion. They know it all. I'm sure that you would have encountered many people in our society, or even among your friends or family, who have that kind of personality. And sometimes it triggers you and you go, why is it that I don't like this person? Why is it that something goes off inside of me when this person comes around? They're also very charming. They are great with throwing out compliments. And that is where the love bombing comes in. That's another terminology, where they shower you with so much compliments that you get sucked in. If you're one of those people who, anybody can get sucked in, because all of us are educated here, right? All of us are intelligent. We have degrees or whatever the case may be, or we are experts in our field. Anybody can get sucked in by that type of personality. So they're the out there personality as opposed to the covert. And Marcella is going to tell you how the covert narcissist.
Right. So the covert narcissist, you don't see them coming. Because unlike the grandiose narcissist who, you hear them, you see them, they are the biggest, the loudest, the, everything that is extravagant. The covert narcissist kind of gets into your skin little by little. It's like little droplets seeping into your blood. And they also do the love bombing. They do all of those things that grandiose narcissist does. But the thing about them is, unlike the grandiose narcissist, where somebody else who is around can say, boy, that person is probably a narcissist, or that person probably has NPD. With a covert narcissist, the people around would never believe you if you told them, this individual here is trying to break my soul. Okay? I have to come back in 1 minute. I'm sorry about this. Have to stop in a minute. I'll be back.
So just to continue on what Marcella was saying, we're all busy people, we're busy professionals, phone calls come in at any time. So the covert narcissists are hidden. And that is what the word covert means. It means hidden. It means secretive. And these are the people who will, as she said, crawl under your skin. They will, you will fall in love with them because they show you in degrees what you want to see. And they will mirror you. Whatever you like, they like. You would think you've met your soulmate. And then after a while, after that love bombing, then comes the devaluation, where every little thing is a nitpick. All of a sudden, you don't look nice in that dress, Therese. All of a sudden, you're not beautiful anymore, Octavia. All of a sudden, after I've had my child, I'm fat. All of a sudden, don't make nobody fool you. You're not as intelligent as you think you are. Because if I had gone to university like you, I would have been a rocket scientist. But you're just an intelligent fool. Those are the types of things that you would get from a covert narcissist. You'll get it from a grandiose narcissist as well. But the covert narcissist is more subtle, and as the word implies, covert meaning hidden. You don't see them coming, and so it takes a while before you realize, wait, what's going on here? And it takes a lot longer for you to become disentangled as well from that trauma bond.
Yeah,
Right.
just to add, the coverts they hide in the church, Jamila. So you can find a lot of those in the church, which is a whole other topic on its own. But that's
Why?
most
She
of
started,
them
Jamila.
they hide.
Whereas you may need to.
So this is another topic, narcissism in the church, which is something we can address separately. But they hide there. That's where most of them
Leave
hide.
that for part 4. I need to prep for that one.
Narcissism in the church. Listen.
It's there.
Ooh.
It is what religion terms as the Jezebel spirit. But we will address all of that.
Ouch.
So that's a whole other topic, altogether.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's just pivot and talk about something else. Here's Auntie Heather with a good one. Auntie Heather always comes to it with the good up comments.
Mm-hmm.
She says female narcissists are also in plentiful supply. They are nasty, vindictive, and manipulative. They treat total strangers great to impress, but treat their family and friends like dirt.
Mm-hmm. Mommy Heather, kudos to you. You have lived longer on this earth than we have, and you have had many experiences, and we have spoken before about these things because Mommy Heather is one of those people that I tap into to try to navigate my way around life. I've learned many things on my traverse through life, and I'm getting to that place where I can say I don't care anymore. But yes, and we have all worked in environments that are toxic, that where female colleagues are. And I'm not talking about petty jealousies and undermining. I am talking about all out, Lego no hand pathological envy. They are in plentiful supply because just like the male version, wherever you have a spirit of excellence, wherever you are good at what you do, it triggers again that insecurity in a particular individual who, as we say in Antigua, don't like your head, or their spirit not take you, or your spirit messes with your demons because you're light. If you walk in a spirit of excellence, you're good at what you do, and maybe you're not even cocky about it. You're confident, you're doing your job that you were hired to do. But then there's somebody in the back office who is upset because you're shining in the job that you're supposed to be doing. I don't get it. But then when I started understanding narcissism, it came to me that there are very many people, males, females, who will take umbrage at the light you shine in the sphere that you were put on this earth to operate in. Now, I am not an accountant. I excelled in English, language, literature, history, words. Don't give me no numbers. If you are in accounts, why are you upset that me operating in my gifting as PR, why are you going to be upset? So that's just a simple question to help people to understand where not just narcissists, because I know that we're trying to stick to the topic, but sometimes we can't diagnose people. but we can look at patterns. If somebody's pathologically envious at your gifting because you operate, I can't go in the accountant office and pull up no spreadsheet. That is her domain, and you respect that. If you are pathologically envious of someone because they are operating in the gifting that God put them on earth for, then something is definitely wrong.
Yes.
And so, yes, Mommy Heather, female narcissists are plentiful, or at least females with narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah. I wanted us to go back to the book. Ladies, queens, and kings who are listening to us, we're coming up to 8 o'clock, and I need you to know that we are going to try to wrap this up at the top of the hour. I know you want us to stay here until midnight, but these queens are busy. We are out here doing our things. As you can see, Marcella already had to step away.
We're fulfilling purpose. I believe that.
We are busy walking in purpose. Very, very busy, purpose-driven, goal-oriented queens. And so we're going to try to wrap up by 8. But I want us to go back to the book, because we cannot end this discussion without this other poem. By the way, before we read the poem, I love them. I love them. The one on page 75, which is entitled "I Won," because sis won.
Yep, big time.
Big time.
No, I know Marcella. Well, Marcella off now. She said, "We're lovers, not fighters," but she won.
She won. and we don't want to end this broadcast without making that point. Okay? So we're going to look at the poem on page 75. But before you read the poem, Octavia, take a moment and tell the people who are watching us and listening where they can find a copy of your book, and then let's start winding down with that poem.
So the books are presently on Amazon. We have the Kindle version as well. So for persons who want to get it right away, you can just go onto Amazon and purchase your Kindle version or your paperback copy. For those here on island, I have a few that are coming. They should be here at the end of the month. So if you would like to get a hard copy, you can always call me 720-5408 to get your copy closer to the end of the month. Or you can call and place your order, because quite a bit of people are asking. So if you place your order before, I can ensure as soon as they get here that you have a copy in hand as well. Yeah. So we're over to the poem that I won. You may ask how and what I won. What is winning and who is a winner? How do I know I've won? I won my sanity. My mind is still sharp. I can think clearly. I won my peace and I feel free, free to express my thoughts and be heard. I found myself all over again. I gained my laughter. I prayed to God for the day I would rise like a phoenix from the ashes, the day when all would be exposed, the day they would seek my forgiveness and love, the day I would win. The day surely came, I won. So, going through this whole ordeal, it was a roller coaster. I mean, it was trying to keep my sanity, having to deal with the legal aspect of things, which is a whole other, ball game, or could be an entire discussion, altogether. Just trying to keep sane altogether. And when you walk away, these are the things that you gain, your sanity. Like sometimes you're in this relationship and you feel trapped somehow. You can't get to express yourself and be yourself the way that you would want to, because you're devalued in so many ways. You know, the narcissist try to break you down, try to shame you into submission. So you're constantly going through that while you try to navigate your, you know, your life. So for me, it was like I had to get up, get myself together, um, put on my heels and put on my smile and get out there and get my work done. And you had to do it through all the pain. And sometimes people, you know, people have said to me, how did you do it? I could never tell, because you were all so, you know, you were well put together and you know, you always smile. But I had to, you know, to do that, because for me as well, of course, as I said, you know, you have a purpose, you know, to fulfill. And I think that everyone should not feel my pain. So I should not walk into this space and then immediately you feel the load that's on my shoulder. So I always tried, you know, not to project what I felt onto other people. So I kept it all inside, and you know, it really hurt, and it keeps you in that state of, you know, of depression, in mental depression as well. So for me, you know, being out of that and walking away, you know, to be able to gain back your genuine smile and to laugh again, you know, with meaning, and to really mean it. And you know, someone can just look at you and see the laughter coming through. This is a win as well. So for me, I just think I have won. And also too, there are many people who did not get to tell their story, and this is really serious, because the reason is because they are not here today to tell that story. Because of narcissism and abuse, they, you know, some of them may be dead today, you know, or may have gone into deep depression, or maybe have lost it mentally. So for me, that's also a win, that I still have my sanity, you know, altogether. My mind is still sharp. I can still function. I can still get the opportunity to love again, and to, you know, and to show love. So all these are, you know, are wins for me. And we have to try hard not to let, you know, our situations keep us down, because I've heard people say, I will never do this again, or I can't see another man again, or I will not love again, I don't want someone else in my life, I can do it on my own. But when you've won, you're willing to be open again, because I believe as queens, and the four of us sitting here, I do believe that we have so much to offer. From the little I know, you know, you have so much to offer to someone else, you know, to the people around you, so much to offer even to a partner, you know. So we should really allow ourselves to, you know, to love again, and that's also a part of winning. So I think I have won, and I'm living and walking in my win right now.
I want to do I'm gonna highlight one final comment. One final comment, I promise. And then after that, I want us to do a little quick activity. I know I'm turning this into a whole therapy session, but just bear with me, Queens. But here's a comment that I think is ideal for wrapping up today's discussion. Thank you, Serene, for this. Serene says, great topic again, ladies and men. Tap into your own insecurities and take courage to form supportive relationships to find your tribe. Smaddy don't know your business, so you might as well be intentional in selectively sharing to get the support and nurturance you so deserve. I love that. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. Now, I want us to close out with a little activity, and I am doing this to make the point, to kind of underscore the point that Serene just made, where she
Yes.
spoke to finding your tribe. We need to rally around each other and not just support each other when we are in the situation, but as you are able to extract yourself from the situation, lift as you rise. Don't
Yes.
Don't go up without grabbing somebody's hand to to lift as you rise. I think that is so important. The victim shaming that I often hear when women find themselves in situations like these is terrible.
Yes.
The then tell she for left he long time, and no wonder he killed she. You know, and so I want us to take a moment before we log off of this broadcast this evening to say a word of empowerment to each other. And I mean this literally, right? So I am going to say a word of empowerment to each one of you. And then Octavia will say to, just I'll go first, and then we'll move around the circle. And I want to say that as we speak this over each other here in the studio, that we are speaking it over every woman who is within the sound of our voices right now, tonight, and also to every woman who will listen to this broadcast, to the recording in the years to come. Because I believe this broadcast is going to be making the rounds. So let's leave them with something that is going to empower them. So I am going to begin. I will start. I'm going to leave Octavia for last. I'm going to start with Marcella. And Marcella, I think what I appreciate most about you is the fact that you couldn't possibly care less about whether or not people appreciate the completely authentic woman that you show up as every single day. Like, you are 100% authentic in how you show up in the world. And to all the people who do not want to see the authentic version of you, you tell them go to France. And I love that about you. We need more women like you around us. I need more women like you around me, because I personally have struggled for most of my adult life. Full transparency, I'm a psychologist, but I'm also a person. I personally have struggled for most of my adult life to show up as an authentic version of myself. I still sometimes struggle with it. I still struggle with dimming my light a little bit because somebody might find me intimidating and I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I sometimes still struggle a little bit with, will they like me? And it is because I have at some point come to believe that a completely authentic version of me is not acceptable. Women like you make it okay for me to show up as authentically as possible and not give a hoot what anybody thinks. This is what I most appreciate about you. Keep doing that because we love to see it. Now, Jamila, I think what I love most about you is your resilience. You are the bounce back queen. You make bouncing back look easy. We know it's not easy. I know it. We all of us know it. But you out here in these streets making it look like, oh, I only just came back from probably the most terrible experience of my life. Not a big deal. Like, hello, right? And so I love that is what I appreciate most about you. And I want you to know that people are watching. They may not say it, but I believe that most people who are looking on are probably thinking you're the bounce back queen too. I'm just talking on behalf of the rest of the peoples. So this is resilience at its best, and we love to see that too. So thank you for demonstrating what it looks like to go to hell and come back until you're good. All right. And finally, Octavia. Octavia. Octavia is also a bounce back queen, but she took it up a notch. Octavia is the bounce back queen who is brave enough to go back. You ever see people running into a burning building to drag out people? And you're telling them, no, you can't go back in there. The building is about to crumble. Like you see that happening on the movies. And they still insist, no, my dog is in there. I have to go get my dog. And they're running in to save somebody. That's Octavia. Octavia is I'm going back into the burning building to drag a couple other people out, sister. And we appreciate you. Because plenty people, when they make it out, then look back. We thank you, sister, for looking back. Thank you for looking back, and thank you for running back into the building. Thank you for continuing to run back into the building and dragging people out. We love to see it, and we appreciate you for that. Okay, the end. All right, I'm going to mute my mic. Whoever wants to go next can go next.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize my
Celebella.
mic was muted. So I said I'm going to go next because one of the things about my authenticity is that I shed tears. And I'm not ashamed of that, and everything that we have been discussing here today in so many ways has affected all of us. I know somebody who said they had to sign off because they've been triggered by what we have been discussing because it brought back so many memories. In the spirit of thinking about all of the women who are watching this now and who will watch this eventually, I'm going to start with Jamila. Jamila is like a sister to me. We have been through a million things together. And what I want to say to you, Jamila, why did you do this to us, Therese, really? But I want to say to Jamila, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you and the strides you have made in your evolution, because no one has gotten to see behind the curtain and all of the things that you have had to endure. So I'm very proud of you. I'm going to make it short because, you see what's happening here. Therese, when you first approached me about doing this program, I thought, but why? I'm not a licensed person. This is not my field. But you believed in what someone else told you who was closer to you. And I'm grateful that you have committed to teaching and to spreading the word and to making sure that people are getting avenues to heal, to be heard, and to share their stories. Octavia, I salute you for your courage, because I know that there are tons of people who are probably the flying monkeys around you who are saying all of the things, and you have to still walk through that fire as people are saying all of the things. But your courage will give somebody else courage, and we all embrace you as you continue the rest of the fight that you have to go through. Thank you for sharing your story. That's it.
Well, don't all jump in at the same time.
Yeah, maybe I
You need a tissue,
should
Marcel?
go while Jamila is trying to gather herself.
I think Octavia should go last. I think we should save the best for last because we've been saluting you all evening on this this live, and you have done what we have wanted to do. Marcella and I, for the past 10 years, have been trading stories. And to be honest, every narcissist has similarities that you cannot believe. You're speaking about totally different people. They have different names, different faces, different races, and they all are that same one person if you are able to observe the patterns. And not that we kept it among ourselves, we kept it within our close circle. We discussed it in our process of healing. We would have disclosed it to people close to us, and then we would have identified the people who didn't want to hear it, who didn't understand, or who didn't care to understand. And that shut us down a little bit, because when people start to kind of give you any animosity or challenge your line of thought, and especially if you're in the process of healing, you start to still doubt yourself. And even now, I'm sure there are many people, we're doing this scared, huh? I know Marcella's going to agree with me. When we say we do things scared, we do it scared, but we know that we have to do it anyway because it's a purpose that we have to fulfill on this earth. Yes? We knew we had to do this, but we are happy that you are the trailblazer, and we salute you for it. We want you to know that you have our support. And I'm quite sure the support of many of the women out there who are voiceless, who are nameless, and who don't even know what they're going through, why they're going through it, and how to pull themselves out of that kind of toxic trauma. And so the conversation has started, because from the time you hit the ground running with your book, you've been making the media rounds, and everybody and their granny and their granny dog has been talking about narcissism. And if we are here to contribute to the conversation, to get people to open their minds about this particular topic, and to understand all the intricacies of this personality disorder, how destructive it is, then we would have done a good job. And not just that, religion deems it generational curses. This is how we break generational curses. This is how we pay it forward. And so when we learn something, we pass it on to the next generation for their good, to advance their generation. We might not be here to see it. I may not be here to see Jordan and Joshua advance what I would have taught them. Then after they learn something new to add on to what we would have taught them, they pass it on. That is how you break generational curses. It's not about rolling on the ground and vomiting up demons and all of that. I'm not going to get into that again, but I'm just saying, this is how you break patterns of behavior, by learning from your experiences and paying it forward. I salute not just Octavia, I salute Therese in your profession as a therapist, the person who is licensed to validate what we have experienced, to let people know that we're not just speaking off the tops of our heads or out of our you know what. A professional validating us. And so we thank you. I salute you. I salute Octavia and my sister Marcella Bella, my confidant. I don't know what you did with the coach that we used to sit on, but Marcella had a coach and she was the original therapist. So we used to sit on her coach, and we used to trade stories, and we used to have our ugly cries. She's in Atlanta now, so we cry over WhatsApp calling. But find yourself a support group, a group that truly believes in what you would have experienced and who would help you to grow past that. And it's a long road. I know all of us here might not look like what we went through. A lot of people tell me, boy, you wear what you went through. My sister-in-law Toya called me a rubber ball. She said, boy, you must have met out a rubber band. You just bounce back. And you said it was so coincidental. But all of us have the capacity to come back from something that would have broken us. So I speak life into all of you, and I speak an awesome journey, because we're on a journey. I feel so excited. We're on a journey, and we have lives, impact, and purpose to fulfill. That's me.
So I will be very short and speak in general. First I must say I am really, really honored to be on a panel with, you ladies. And just thanks to Jamila for even considering me. Teres, thank you so much for, thinking that I was worthy enough to come here to tell my story. And Masala for even joining as well. We know you're not even here, but I felt your support, by the messages that you sent and for how you've been following. I felt that love and support. And I just need to say to all of you to keep letting go of the things that do not serve you, or we should keep letting go of the things that do not serve us, and let us continue to walk in our faith and strength, because I see every one of you as really strong and powerful women. And I'm really happy that we're here sharing, as a team, sharing together, because sometimes you really think that you're alone, and you think that certain people won't even be a part of your journey, or assisting you through. But I'm really happy that I have your support, and that you're here for me, and you considered me to even be here today. Thank you so much. I have found my new Scorpion friends, my new Scorpion sisters, my new Scorpion queens. Thank you so much for having me, and to the persons who showed up as well on the live to give, we just pray the blessings on you. And if you're going through as well, we pray that you will find your healing from something that we've shared here today. So thanks so much for having me.
Sorry, I'm muted. This will be our very last comment. Melina says, "It is so good to cry. Our tears are never wasted." Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. They are our blessing, which are stored up for us." So, Melina making me cry. Stop it, Melina. Stop it right now.
Well, Melina,
That's my
stop
sister,
it,
by
Melina.
the way. That's my sister.
Ooh. Thank you, Melina.
Yes.
Oh gosh, she's making everybody cry. Listen, let me end this broadcast. Okay. I want to say thank you to you ladies for being here. Thank you for taking your time out of your very busy lives to come and sit here for 2.5 hours, because that's how long it has been, even though we said we were going to stop at 2 hours. But here we are. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all of the people. We have a host of persons watching us on 3 platforms. They're watching us on Facebook, they're watching us on YouTube, and I see a few people watching on Twitter as well. We thank you very much. The Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform is only here because of the followers. This turned into a thing because of you guys. And so thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. We will be back in 2 weeks with another broadcast. The message I will leave you with, particularly anybody who is going through a tough time, is that flowers grow back after they have been stepped on. And so will you. Okay? We will never stop rising. That's why we are
Phoenix from the
queens.
ashes.
Being like a phoenix from the ashes. We will always, always get up. Okay? All right. And on that note, remember, every last one of you, be a beautiful week. Bye, everyone.